Okay, so I saw a post on Twitter yesterday that said it gave an example, right, of someone earning $80,000 a year and saving $15K a year versus someone who's making $130 a year, $130,000 a year, and only saving $6,000 a year. And he says that savings is more important than income. And I strongly disagree. I comment on that thread, and it got a lot of pushback and a lot of replies from a lot of different people saying different things, and this is why I wanted to talk to you about it today. I feel like it very depends on your age how much you should save. If you're a young guy in your 20s, you should probably only try and work on growing your income. I wouldn't even bother about savings at all at this point. I would only work on increasing your skills, increasing your income, get a better job, start a business, do whatever you need to do to go from 0 to 50K a year to 100K a year and more. And I say this because you can always optimize for saving, but optimizing from $130,000 a year income is much more easier than doing it on an 80K a year income. And that is just math. So as I was saying, that is just math, right? If you earn more money, it's going to be easier for you to optimize your savings. That's just math. If you earn $1 million a year, it could be very easy for you to save $50K a year. But if you only earn $60K a year, it's going to be very difficult for you to even save $20K a year, right? I'm sure you will agree with me. So my point is you can always optimize and save later. What I want to talk about right now is the fact that if you're a young person, and not even if you're young, you should actively work to grow your income. Forget about savings for now. All right, forget about savings for now. I'll give you an example why. If you optimize and save 15% of your income, which is, let's say for this example, is $130,000 a year, that will give you roughly $19,500 a year that you saved, which is greater than the $15,000 in the example that this guy posted on Twitter, which there you actually need to save, if you think about it, almost 19% of your income. So I'm going to ask you, just as a common sense thing, which is harder to do? Save 19% of your income or save 15% of your income? I'm sure you know the answer to that yourself. And also in the first example, you earn less money, right? So how can you optimize for more savings when you earn less money? Doesn't make sense to me. You should optimize and grow your income actively, proactively, before you even discuss saving rates, right? And also another thing that I want to mention that I think a lot of people forget, there is a minimum, right? Saving from a $60K yearly income is much, much more harder than saving from $130,000 a year, right? Because you have basic living expenses, right? Doesn't matter if you're single or married with children. There's a minimum expenses that you can expect every month, which is a mortgage or rent, cars, food, education, and whatnot. So there's a minimum. Let's just say it's $50,000 a year for a single person, or $40,000 a year for a single person, and for a family, let's say it's $80K, right? I'm just throwing numbers. Don't catch me on the exact figures. So obviously, if your basic living expenses are 60, 70K, and you only earn 70K or 75K, you will not be able to save a lot. That is, again, just basic math. So yeah, working on growing your income first is probably much more important than trying to save a nickel and dime on everything that you can. I will say, as a general rule of thumb, before you reach a six-figure income, don't even think about saving. And I'm not saying you shouldn't save. If you can, that's awesome. But I think your time will be better spent working on actively growing your income before you even try to do crazy stuff with your savings. And again, this is not financial advice. Every person should be responsible for their own money. I'm just a guy on YouTube, and a lot of people say, what do you know? And I strongly agree. So take responsibility, take the information that I provide in this video as just that. Let's move on. Another thing that's important to know is that don't put money just in a savings account. Don't save money in the bank. Money sitting in a bank account is not really saving. It's actually losing money if you consider inflation and other factors. Most banks won't even give you 1% interest yearly on your savings account. So if inflation is at 3% and you're getting 1%, you're actually losing money every month. So that doesn't meet any goal, right? So what you should optimize for is actually investing a portion of your income and not just putting it in a savings account, right? And that should probably go into stocks or some other assets or structure that will produce at least 3 to 4% a year return for your money, just so you won't lose money, right? Again, if inflation is 3% and you earn 3 or 4% on your money, you're basically just maintaining the value of the money. You're not really growing the money, but at least you're not losing money. Very important thing to do. And I will just leave you with this simple formula that you can follow in order to set yourself up so you don't have to overcomplicate things. A lot of people like to overcomplicate things, and I like to keep things simple. So work on your active income. That means your 9-to-5 job. That means your business. That means your side hustle that you're working on. Take a portion of that income and put it into stocks or some sort of other assets that will produce you at least 3 or 4% a year in a return, right? And these things could be either a real estate investment, maybe a rental that in your area that you feel like you can afford and that pays for itself, and you rent it out and you get a little bit of a cash flow. Maybe that's putting it on, a lot of people do, is just they put it on the S&P 500, right? In the last, I want to say a year, 2 years, S&P 500 gave great returns to investors. So, it's just put the money there and you forget about it for a year or two. Now, again, I want to stress the fact this is not financial advice. Be responsible. But I'm just giving you a few examples of what people actually do that makes them more money, right? If the S&P 500 grows in the last 12 months by 11%, if you put money in it, you make money. That is a great way to save by investing, because saving by itself doesn't really do anything. You're just losing money. And as always, I'll leave you with this thought. You should always let your money work for you. And even if it's a little bit, I know some people will look at this and say, oh, you have to be rich before you can have your money work for you. No, that's a misconception. If you're young and you start young, within 10 to 20 years of doing it consistently, you could actually be very well off and sometimes even set for life, right? And I'm not even joking. There are a lot of examples of young people in their 20s that were smart and hardworking, and they worked a good job and they saved a little bit of money, and instead of just putting it in a bank account, they invested it. And after 15 years, 20 years, now they're in their 40s, which is still a young man, right? It's not an old man, a young man. And they're pretty much set because compound interest works in their favor. And if every year they manage to do between 7 and 10% return on their money, and they kept contributing to that money from their active income, whether that's a job or a business, I can pretty much guarantee that after 20 years, even 15 years, they're pretty much set. If you don't believe me, do research online. I encourage you to research this online and see what happens if you even invest a little bit of money every month from your active income to a passive investment asset. I actually encourage you to go do that and leave a comment telling me if I'm wrong or if I'm right. I always like to say that even if one person gain value from my videos, then my job is complete. But I encourage you as well to go to my library of videos on my YouTube channel, as I publish every week. And at this point, I probably have close to 100 videos talking about entrepreneurship, personal finance, mindset, and the mental aspects of being an entrepreneur. And I'm sure you can gain some value from it. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.